Welcome to the Baboom Baboom podcast, your go-to source for expert tips on car stereo installation, vehicle wiring, and all things wiring related. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, we've got the advice to help you power up your ride. Get ready to crank up the volume on your knowledge and make your next wiring project a success.
All right, everybody, are you ready to crank things up? We're diving deep into home theater setup today, specifically speakers.
Yes, getting that audio experience dialed in just right.
And we always say we like to go beyond the basics here. So we've got this Baboom Baboom article someone sent us. It's got some good info.
Yeah, you can only fit so much into an article.
Exactly. And we want to make sure that you get the absolute most out of your home theater setup.
Absolutely.
So, one thing that stood out to me in the article is how much they emphasized choosing the right speakers for your space.
Yeah, and it's something that I feel like a lot of people just kind of gloss over.
It does seem kind of obvious when you say it out loud, but I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who get caught up in thinking that bigger is better. Like, if I just get the biggest speakers possible, it's going to sound amazing no matter what.
Right, like it's some kind of a contest.
The bragging rights. I have the biggest speakers.
Exactly. But the reality is that technology has come a long way. We can achieve amazing audio quality from smaller, more discreet speakers.
See, and that's what I like to hear because my living room is more cozy than cavernous, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the things people should be thinking about then when they're going to actually choose those speakers?
So you definitely want to think about the size of your room.
Makes sense.
How far away are you going to be sitting from the speakers? What kind of content are you mostly going to be listening to?
Oh, so like if I'm mostly watching like dialogue-heavy stuff, maybe I don't need to go crazy.
Yeah.
But if I want to like feel the explosions in an action movie,
Exactly.
got to go big.
Then you want to consider that.
Okay, so like room size listening habits. What about actually testing these things out? Because I've always just relied on like online reviews.
Reviews can be helpful, but they don't tell the whole story. Because a speaker might sound fantastic in a showroom with high ceilings and lots of open space, but put that same speaker in a smaller room with different acoustics, and it could sound completely different.
So you're telling me my shoebox apartment could potentially sabotage my home theater dreams?
Well, I wouldn't say sabotage, but it can
Yes.
definitely impact the sound, and that's why testing is crucial. Ideally, you want to find a store that lets you demo speakers in a room that's comparable in size and layout to yours. Or at least pay close attention to the room size mentioned in reviews.
Okay, that's a really good point. It's kind of like buying new shoes without trying them on first.
Exactly.
You never know how they're really going to feel until they're on your feet. Okay, so we've tackled speaker selection. What about placement? I'll admit I'm guilty of just kind of plopping speakers wherever they fit. Like, as long as I can see it, it's good.
Yeah, placement is where the magic happens. It's not just about aesthetics. It's about creating this strategic sound field that envelops you in the audio. And so, the article touches on this a little bit, but let's break it down even further.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this. I'm all ears. Where do we begin?
Let's start with your front speakers, the workhorses of your system. Think of them as laser beams of sound aimed directly at your ears.
Laser beams.
Yeah.
Okay. I never thought about it that way, but it makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
So to get those laser beams pointed in the right direction, your front speakers should be positioned at ear level when you're seated in your prime listening position.
Okay.
This ensures that you're getting the clearest, most direct sound possible.
So if my front speakers are currently on the floor,
Yeah.
that's a no-go.
Not ideal.
Okay.
You might be getting some sound, but it's not reaching your ears in the most optimal way. Now let's talk about those surround sound speakers. Remember that feeling of being enveloped by the audio like you're in the movie? That's the sound bubble we're going for. And it's all about strategic placement.
Okay, I'm invested. How do we create this immersive sound bubble?
Your surround sound speakers should be placed slightly above ear level, angled towards you.
Okay.
Think of it like they're creating an arc of sound that immerses you from all sides.
So it's not just about blasting sound at me from behind. It's about creating a more nuanced and enveloping experience.
Exactly. And then, of course, we have the subwoofer, which often gets relegated to some forgotten corner.
Yeah, or like shoved under the couch because nobody wants to look at it. But I love a good rumble when I'm watching an action movie.
And a well-placed subwoofer can make all the difference. A lot of people believe that subwoofer placement doesn't really matter because bass frequencies are less directional.
Oh, interesting.
But they're missing a crucial point. Bass waves are long and powerful.
Okay, so tucking it away in a corner is a no-no.
Not necessarily. In fact, placing your subwoofer in a corner can actually enhance those low frequencies, give you that deep resonant rumble that you can truly feel.
Need top-quality electrical wire? Baboom Baboom's got you covered. Get your 6-pack today. Each combo comes in 6 different colors and a total of 600 feet of wire. Perfect for any project, and you won't find a better price in the industry. Head over to baboombaboom.com now to snag yours. That's baboombaboom.com.
This is already changing the game for me. I'm ready to move some furniture around. But before we get ahead of ourselves, the article briefly mentioned something called wiring. And honestly, that's always been the part that intimidates me the most.
Yeah, I understand. Wiring can seem daunting, but it's actually simpler than you might think.
Well, I'm glad one of us feels confident.
The key takeaway is that the article was right to even bring up wire gauge. It's
Okay.
more important than a lot of people realize.
Okay.
The gauge basically refers to the thickness of the wire, and thicker is generally better.
Okay, hold on. Explain it to me like I'm 5. Why does
Yeah.
wire thickness matter?
Imagine you're trying to water a garden with a tiny straw versus a large hose.
Okay.
The hose is going to deliver the water much more efficiently, right?
Yeah.
It's the same concept with speaker wire. A thicker wire allows the electric signal to travel from your receiver to your speakers with less resistance, resulting in better sound quality.
So a thin, flimsy wire is like trying to power my entire home theater system with a trickle of electricity.
You got it. And this is especially important for longer distances and more powerful speakers. Think about it. If you're trying to send a huge surge of power to your speakers for those epic movie moments, you need a wire that can handle it without any bottlenecks.
So how do I know what gauge wire I need? Because I feel like that's where I get lost.
So the article provided a handy table,
Right.
which might seem a little overwhelming at first,
Sure.
but let me break it down for you. If you're mostly watching like dialogue-heavy content or listening to music at lower volumes, and your speakers are relatively close to the receiver, you can probably get away with a thinner wire.
Okay.
But if you are all about those action-packed blockbusters with booming soundtracks and you have a larger room, you are going to want to invest in a thicker wire.
So it's all about finding that right balance based on like my listening habits, the size of my room, the power of my speakers.
Exactly.
Okay. That demystifies the wiring dilemma a bit.
Yeah.
But before we get too lost in a jungle of cables, let's move on to a topic that I think is crucial for that truly polished home theater experience. And that is calibration. Now, I'll admit, I used to think calibration was something only like audiophiles with super high-end systems needed to worry about.
It's a common misconception.
Okay.
Calibration is like the secret sauce that takes your home theater from good to outstanding.
Okay.
And the best part is, it's not nearly as complicated as you might think.
Okay, you've piqued my interest. What exactly is calibration and why is it so important?
So in simple terms, calibration is the process of optimizing your audio system for your specific room.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Every room has its own unique acoustic personality, shaped by its size, its shape, even the materials used in its construction.
So you're saying my living room has like its own sonic fingerprint?
Exactly. And just like our fingerprints are unique, so too are the acoustic properties of our rooms. Hard surfaces like walls, floors, furniture can reflect sound waves, creating echoes and distortions that just muddy up the audio.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this matters. So how does calibration actually work?
Well, a lot of modern receivers actually come equipped with built-in calibration tools
cool.
that take the guesswork out of the process. These tools typically use a microphone that you place in your prime listening position. The microphone listens to test tones emitted from each speaker and then automatically adjusts the settings to create a balanced, natural sound that's tailored to your room's acoustics.
So it's like having a tiny sound engineer right there in my living room. That's really neat. The article also mentioned something about soft furnishings playing a role in all of this too.
Absolutely.
Great.
Something as simple as adding a rug, some curtains, even a few throw pillows can actually make a significant difference. Yeah, these soft materials absorb sound waves, which helps to reduce those unwanted reflections and just create a cleaner, more balanced sound.
It's amazing how those like seemingly small details can have such a big impact.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive, I think it's important to address those common installation mistakes that can trip people up. You know, the Baboom Baboom article had a whole section on this, and was a real eye-opener.
It's true. Even seasoned audiophiles can fall prey to these common pitfalls.
Right.
So let's shed some light on a few of them so our listeners can avoid any unnecessary audio headaches.
Yes, please. The first one that jumped out at me was ignoring room acoustics, which it seems like we've hammered home the importance of this throughout our discussion.
And for good reason.
Okay.
You can have the best speakers and equipment in the world, but if you neglect the acoustic environment of your room, you're not going to achieve that truly immersive cinematic sound. It's like buying a high-performance sports car and then trying to drive it off-road.
Yeah.
It's just not going to perform at its best.
Perfect analogy. Another mistake that caught my eye was inadequate wiring. We've already talked about wire gauge, but the article also emphasized the importance of, secure connections.
Yeah, yes, loose connections.
Uh-oh.
They're silent but deadly. It's easy to overlook a loose wire or a poorly made connection in the excitement of setting up your system, but even the slightest gap in those connections can lead to all sorts of problems, from intermittent sound dropouts to distorted audio and even potential damage to your equipment.
Definitely not the kind of drama we want in our home theater experience, so double-checking those connections is a must. What else should we be wary of?
Well, I think one of the most common and easily avoidable mistakes is just poor speaker placement.
Okay.
Remember our earlier analogy of front speakers being like laser beams of sound?
Right.
If those speakers are crammed into a corner or blocked by furniture, those laser beams aren't going to reach their target, your ears.
Yeah, it's like trying to watch a movie with your eyes closed. You might hear the sound, but you're not going to get the full experience.
Exactly. And it's not just about the front speakers. The placement of your surround sound speakers and subwoofer is equally crucial for creating that immersive sound bubble we talked about earlier.
So taking the time to experiment with different placements is key.
Absolutely. Even small adjustments can make a surprising difference. And here's a fun tip. Don't be afraid to get a little creative. Sometimes moving a piece of furniture a few inches to the left or right can drastically alter the acoustics of your room and enhance the overall sound.
I love that. It's like a sonic puzzle.
Yes.
Figuring out the optimal arrangement for your space.
Precisely. And that's part of what makes setting up a home theater so rewarding. It's a process of experimentation and discovery.
And speaking of discovery, I think we've uncovered a wealth of knowledge in this deep dive. But before we wrap up, do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners? This has been awesome.
It has.
Seriously, I feel like I've learned so much.
Good.
I'm ready to go set up my dream home theater now.
That's what we like to hear. And, speaking of that, I do have one final thought, something we haven't explicitly touched on yet.
Okay.
We've talked about speaker placement, room acoustics. But what about your furniture?
Wait, you're telling me my comfy armchair could be messing with my sound system?
It's entirely possible. Furniture isn't just about comfort. It plays a role in how sound waves travel and bounce around your room. Experiment with rearranging things a bit. You might be surprised at the impact even subtle shifts can have.
Mind blown. Like my entire living room is part of the audio experience. And that's what I love about these deep dives. We take something that seems simple on the surface, like setting up a home theater, but there's actually so much more to it.
There's always more to learn. But hopefully this deep dive has given you the tools and the knowledge to go out there and create that truly immersive audio experience at home.
Absolutely. So to everyone listening, happy experimenting. And until next time, may your audio be immersive, your bass be booming, and your home theater be the envy of the neighborhood.
Hear, hear.
Need top-quality electrical wire? Baboom Baboom's got you covered. Get your 6-pack today. Each combo comes in 6 different colors and a total of 600 feet of wire. Perfect for any project, and you won't find a better price in the industry. Head over to baboombaboom.com now to snag yours. That's baboombaboom.com.